Hello, Mr. Gigabytes here, and today we're going to be doing a few upgrades to the C64 Mini. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to update to the latest firmware. And I've got my USB stick ready to go, and we're just going to pop that into the side here. Grab the joystick. Go into settings, system information, and it just automatically finds it. You just put the firmware file in the root folder of your USB drive, and it automatically looks for it. So we're going to go ahead and apply this, and we'll take you through how it does it, but it's really dead simple. Now, a couple of things that this update does, really a lot of stuff on the back end, but it adds one game to it. We're going to go ahead and mute the music there so we can talk. But there's an extra game on here. And the game is called Galencia. And it's right there. So it kind of looks like a Space Invaders clone, but says we didn't listen to the warnings. We decided to ignore the global decline of bees, and now their guardians have arrived. You must pilot the 1981 Galencia fighter spacecraft and restore order before it's too late. So let's go ahead and play that for just a minute or two. Yep, that was not very long, was it? So well, one of the things I'm going to do, let's do this real quick. Let's exit the game. I did order in a Gamepad that is compatible with the C64 Mini, and I wanted to give that a try. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pull that USB stick out. Let's pop that in. Now, the fire button by default is the X. I'm not sure if it's the same on all of them, but so what I might need to do is we'll reset that. There we go. let's go ahead and let's try Galencia again. Not much better with this new gamepad. Oh. Well, a little further that time, but I'm a pretty terrible gamer if I'm brutally honest. These controllers start brings up the menu here, so I'm going to go ahead and exit the game. That's weird, when you bring up that menu you have to use the right shoulder button here, but yeah, it seems to work okay. Okay, for our next upgrade to the C64 Mini, we're going to fix the joystick breakage problem. And I want to give a shout out to Jamie from Morgan Just Games, who actually did a video on this. It's a good idea, even though I'm not going to be particularly hard on my joystick. Just because of the way I hold it. I hold it down by the base and like this, rather than having it, holding it up here and really cranking on it. So, but I'm going to go ahead and do that upgrade anyway, just to show you guys how it's done. A few things you're going to need. You're going to need some rather small drill bits. And the size of the drill bit's going to vary depending on what type of screw you're going to use. Now, I'm going to use about a 50 millimeter. This is about a 2-inch deck screw. It's nice. It's nice and thin, but of course so it should go up fairly high into the shaft and reinforce the joystick right through the middle here. And you'll need and depending on the size of your screw that you use, you're going to need some smaller bits. You'll want a bit eventually just barely bigger. You want a bit that's just barely smaller than the screw that you're going to put in, so that it doesn't fall out. But you don't want the bit so small that you end up putting pressure on the shaft and actually breaking the stick from cracking it, vertically. So I've got those lined up. Let's go ahead and get started. One of the things you're going to need is a number 1 screwdriver, and I see this happen all the time with people working on these. A lot of the times people are using these tiny little screwdrivers, and okay, sure, they'll work, but you want the right size screwdriver for your for that screw, and these are number 1 Phillips screws. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the 4 screws from the bottom. You'll want to have this set upside down like this so that none of the buttons fall out while you're doing this. When I took this apart the first time, I had quite a few. I had every single button fall out of the joystick, and that wasn't fun to put back. So here we go. The next 4 screws are pretty much the same as the first 4. Just a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter. They're still number 1. It's important to use the right size screwdriver so that you don't strip the screw heads out. The next thing we're going to do, go ahead and lift that off. Now, I'm going to set this aside. So here's the bottom of the joystick. And what we need to do is we need to take this X plate out. And again, same size screws. Go. Be very careful. There is a spring right there. I'd forgotten about that. There's a spring that pops that up. That'll have to be replaced. Now this is the screw in question. This is actually very, very small. So what we need to do is this actually connects this ball, this hemisphere here, to the actual joystick. Once we disconnect the joystick shaft, we won't have much to hold on to after that. Now that's a longer screw than I was expecting, but nonetheless, so now very carefully, and of course some of my buttons popped out there. We'll need both pieces. The good news is all these buttons are the same, so even if they do pop out, they don't go in any particular order. So we're going to set that aside. There's a little ring there. Don't need that right at the moment. But this screw here, it only goes up, so far into the joystick. A lot of them have been breaking off, right in here. But of course, right now the hole is a little too small. So we're going to start with the small bit, and we're going to drill up through the joystick. And for that, you'll need a drill, and ideally you'll want a vice grip too. I have a very small one, but we're going to we're basically going to hold it. If you've got a vice grip, I encourage you to use it, because this can get a little hairy here. You want to be very careful. Go slow. And I only went about halfway in. I'm going to clean the bit off because it'll get clogged up. And we'll go through one more time. This might work, but I'm going to go one size a little bit bigger, because you don't want to blow out this bottom part. That would sort of defeat the whole purpose of the repair. So I'm going to switch it up. We're going to step up one size larger, and we're going to do it one more time. It's very soft material, so it's not difficult. This fits a little bit better. I feel pretty comfortable I can get the screw in without compromising the joystick. What I don't want is, I don't want the auger on the screw to bind to the plastic. I want it to go in nice and straight. I do want a little bit of grip on it, just to keep the screw in and secure. Now what we need to do is we also need to make this hole a little bit bigger as well. Now the safe bet is to do what we did with the joystick and go a little bit larger. You know, step up from a smaller bit to a larger bit. But as you can see on this is the smaller bit. That just slides right through. There's no resistance. So let's take a look at this. See if we do need to auger this out a little bit. Again, go slow. And that's all there is to it. I don't believe this has any particular direction, but the open tab was at the top when I pulled it apart, so that's where it's going to go back, just to stay consistent. I just put that little tab in, and the tab should hold that all in while we screw that in. So I'm just going to start it with my fingers just a little bit. Now this is a number 2 Phillips head. It's much larger, and I'm just going to do this manually. I'm not going to use a drill. That way, if it binds or feels like it's cracking, I can stop. Put this spring here, and we take this X bracket here, and we're going to push that all the way down. One screw. I keep pressure on that spring. I would keep pressure on that spring until you got 2 screws in. There we go. There's 2 screws. I'll just pop the rest of them in. There we go. The upper part of the joystick is now reassembled. We'll pop that button back in. So the next thing we've got to do is put the main circuit board on. And that just goes in like so. And we'll start putting the screws in on that as well. Yep. Feels like the buttons are in place. Now, we've got to put the bottom part on. And this has a rounded area on the top and a squared area on the bottom. You want the squared area to go on the bottom of the joystick. And that goes together like so. There we are. Okay, let's make sure that the joystick still works. Sure looks like it. It's working, and it should hold up to a little more abuse. But that's it for this video. As always, thank you for watching.